Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy, I'm Chris the Down One, and I am back with another video. The finals are over with. The Golden State Warriors swept the Cleveland Cavaliers. So now we shift our attention to the future. The 7 teams LeBron James is probably going to have a conversation with this summer when free agency starts. Okay, now let's start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I've been stating this for the record for the past year and a half, that past year and a half, that I feel like ultimately LeBron James is going to keep his talents in Cleveland. And the reason why I think he's going to stay in Cleveland are the following. His family's there. His family's comfortable in Cleveland. Okay. And, you know, the N.B.A. East was the least. Still, the GM, Kobe Altman, he can still be clever enough this summer, to add a couple of more pieces and subtract a lot of pieces. If he can somehow, some way, get someone to somehow get rid of Christian Thompson, J.R. Smith. Let's just face facts and face reality. If he can get rid of those 2 contracts, that would be very beneficial for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They should have never signed those players, but they were LeBron James guys, LeBron James boys. His agency have both of these players, and that's the only reason why they got contracts in the first place, because LeBron James wanted to take care of his boys, so to say. So I think Cleveland is a perfect destination for him, as well as it could be a scenario where LeBron maybe signs a 2-year extension, a 3-year extension, maybe a 4-year extension. I think 3 years would probably be the most. And then at the end of this contract, he's probably going to retire, and Dan Gilbert's probably going to sell the team to LeBron James. All right, because LeBron James the next stratosphere he wants to go into is ownership. Okay, and he'll be the first NBA player to retire as an NBA player and become an owner the next following year. And I think that's something he can, toot his own horn, and that'd be one more thing he can say, I'm better at Michael Jordan at, because Michael Jordan took a while for him to become an owner. So that's one destination, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not going to go through all these teams. You can look at the pictures below, and I'm going to have the article below. Now, the second opportunity, the second place he probably is going to end up is, and I think this is the strongest, if he's looking to beat the Golden State Warriors and get some more rings on his finger, is the Boston Celtics. Now, for this to happen, the Cleveland Cavaliers are probably going to sign LeBron James to an extension, and they're going to trade him to the Boston Celtics. Now, the reason why the LeBron James and Cleveland Cavaliers are on board with this, so the Cleveland Cavaliers can get something in return for LeBron James, than nothing. And this is probably the only team that's going to have a scenario like this, where LeBron James is going to be in a situation where he's going to be traded, and in return, the Cleveland Cavaliers can do one or the other. They're not going to get both. They can trade for draft picks, okay, or trade for players that are on the Boston Celtics roster. Okay, now there's going to be a lot of players on the Boston Celtics roster that's going to be off limits. But if they're interested in Marcus Smart, if they're interested in players like that Boston's really not that interested in, I think the biggest name that they'll probably let go of, if they have to let go of, and I just had a brain fart here. He was just injured for the Boston Celtics in the very first game. Can't think of his name. Sorry about that. I mentioned his name in my live stream anyway. That's a possibility. He'll probably go. Gordon Hayward. That's a possibility that they can probably pick up that type of talented player. And on the side note, Kyrie Irving is probably going to stay with Boston if they can lure LeBron James to Boston. Okay, so that's a destination. Plus, it's in the NFC least. He'll still be in the Eastern Conference. He'll still be dominating, and that's enough firepower there for the Boston Celtics. Okay, and they can probably dethrone the Golden State Warriors with that talent, with a healthy Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, as well as the other members of that squad, and they can go 8 deep, and a possibility to dethrone the Golden State Warriors. All right. Now, the next landing spot, I think, and to me, I think LeBron James is just going to give them a conversation and then say, okay, cool, that's enough. He's probably just going to talk to them and move on to the next destination, is the Miami Heat. Now, the Miami Heat has some pieces there, along with Dwayne Wade. Plus, he's familiar with South Beach, familiar with Dwayne Wade, familiar with Pat Riley, as well as Eric Spoelstra. Okay, this is a strong possibility and a logical, educated guess, so to say. And the only way I think LeBron James would go to South Beach, if him and Dan Gilbert couldn't, do a handshake agreement as far as ownership goes with the Cleveland Cavaliers, or if the Boston Celtics are not interested in him. Okay, that's the only way I could see him going to Miami. But Miami has a couple of pieces there, and a better roster there when you compare it to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He'll still be in the NFC least. Okay, but as far as those pieces beating the Golden State Warriors, not right now. If somehow, some way they can trade to get even more pieces, it's a possibility. Because the only way you're going to be able to beat the Golden State Warriors if you can go deep into your bench. And right now, the Miami Heat cannot go deep in there. They can probably go 6 deep, but they can't go 8 deep. Okay, but it'll be the same situations. The same problems he had with Cleveland, it'll probably be pretty much the same problems he'll have with the Miami Heat when it's all said and done, them competing with the Golden State Warriors. Okay, so that's another destination. Okay, here's another suggestion: is the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not too strong with this possibility because of the fact that Ben Simmons is still developing. He still haven't. He doesn't have a jump shot, a mid-range shot. He's athletic. He can pass the ball. He will probably be taking the ball more than LeBron James, and LeBron James will be converted to like a spot-up shooter, he'll clearly he won't be an ISO player, which he's accustomed to for the 15 years here. All right. The problem, he'll be in the Philadelphia. He'll still be in the least, the Eastern Conference, and he'll probably take this. He'll definitely prevail this team, least to the Boston Celtics, and I still think the Boston Celtics has enough to beat the 76ers. Okay, now for this to happen and for this to work, in order for them to have salary cap flexibility, there are going to be players that they have now on the roster that they are going to be unable to sign. Okay, and knowing LeBron James, he will want another veteran player there. So if he wants Paul George, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to have to trade for him, and they're going to probably lose draft picks as well as a couple of players just to get Paul George services. Okay, but I'm not too keen of the Philadelphia 76ers because LeBron James doesn't really fit well with the 76ers as of right now, because both of those star players, they're still developing. They're still growing. Okay, so if LeBron James willing to wait a couple of years to see how this pans out, fine. Okay, but I just don't see LeBron James going to the Philadelphia 76ers, but that's one of the destinations or possibilities where LeBron James may ultimately go to. All right. Now, if you've been noticing, I've been staying in the Eastern Conference. And the reason why I'm staying in the Eastern Conference is the fact that I think LeBron James prefers to play in the Eastern Conference, where he don't have to play the Golden State Warriors early. Okay. And there are advantages of playing in the Eastern Conference for LeBron James than advantages for him to move to the West. Okay, so let's talk about the first Western Conference team that I haven't mentioned until now, is the Houston Rockets. Now, a lot of people are pointing to the fact that, yeah, he can go to the Houston Rockets, but here's the problem with the Houston Rockets. In order for them to fit LeBron James with the Houston Rockets, they're going to have to give up on some players that they're expected to sign this offseason. And without these players, they're not deep enough to compete with the Golden State Warriors. Already, Trevor Ariza is already indicating that he's going to the Golden State Warriors if they don't pick up on Swaggy P. All right, so that's one player that you're going to be potentially losing. Okay, you still going to have to pay Chris Paul, and Chris Paul gave up a max contract with the Clippers to join the Houston Rockets, and they already had a handshake agreement of they're going to take care of him and they're going to sign him to a big time contract. And most of that salary dollars are that's from that cap is going to eat. It's going to be coming from Chris Paul. If you max out Chris Paul and James Harden, you really don't have a lot of money for a third player, particularly if you want a deeper roster. Okay, and I just don't see LeBron James. If you look at it gameplay wise, LeBron James will be holding the ball, and it will revert Chris Paul, who you done maxed out, into a spot up shooter. Okay, and that's not what makes Chris Paul Chris Paul. Chris Paul has to have the ball and demands the ball. Now LeBron James, like he already stated with the Philadelphia 76ers, he's willing to be a spot up shooter. I just don't see it working. Okay. And once again, it's in the West, and I think LeBron James don't want to lose to the Golden State Warriors, meet up with them earlier than he has to, which is the finals. He prefers the East over the West, okay? Which comes to our next team in the West, the LA Lakers. Here are some bright points of the LA Lakers. They can sign 2, maybe 3 max contracts. They have some young developing players like Alonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. Okay, that's your foundation there, and Kyle Kuzma. But other than that, there's question marks all over the board with their bench help. Okay, now even if you get LeBron James and Paul George to sign to the LA Lakers, that still ain't good enough to beat the Golden State Warriors. And once again, we're going into the same discussion of, do LeBron James really want to battle the Golden State Warriors earlier rather than later? I think he prefers to play the Golden State Warriors in the finals versus in the first or second or third round of the playoffs. Okay. And there's a lot of question marks with that bench. There's not a lot of growth and development with the 3 players I just mentioned. Another year wouldn't hurt them, and they should be a lot better, but are they playoff caliber better? I'm going to have to say no on that, okay? Plus, they're in the West, and LeBron James is trying to do his due diligence not to play in the West so he doesn't want to meet either the Houston Rockets or the Golden State Warriors earlier in the playoff rounds, okay? So, that's a destination. I just don't see LeBron James going there, but that is a destination. The San Antonio Spurs. He always wanted to play with a Hall of Fame coach, with Gregg Popovich. If they can get LeBron James, then most logically they're going to keep Kawhi Leonard. But him and Kawhi Leonard and some other pieces, I just don't see it. And once again, it's in the West, and LeBron James really don't want to play in the West. He wants to stay in the East, where he can thrive and flourish in. Okay, but it's a possibility, but I don't think it's a real strong possibility. Now, I mentioned all the teams, all the 7 teams that are probably going to have a cup of coffee or tea with LeBron James when you're talking about conversations for the summer. Here's a dark horse in the room. Do not be surprised if this goes down, okay? And once again, this is a dark horse, okay? I'm not 100% sure, but it is in the East. And if they can figure out, they already got the coach, and all they need to do is, if they can get the players that they signed last year, if somehow, some way, they can get another team to pick up some of these players, it'll be pretty decent for them. Is the New York Knicks. New York Knicks just hired a coach that LeBron James likes. They also hired a GM who used to be the GM for the Raptors, which LeBron James likes. James Dolan, even though he may have his disagreements with James Dolan, he's not the type of owner that likes to stick his hands where they don't belong when you're talking about talent, players, and free agencies. I think that James Dolan has given up on that and allowing the GM as well as everyone else out there to make those types of moves. The New York Knicks are in the East. They got a lot of salary cap. Not only they can get LeBron James, but they can also get Paul George. And James Dolan is probably willing enough. I'm not saying he will do it, but he's willing enough to go over the salary cap if he has to get other pieces on the roster. Okay? What you're going to have, you got to have an 8-deep, 9-deep roster to compete with the Golden State Warriors. Okay? So, that's a dark horse possibility. I don't see LeBron James going there, but they have a lot of attractive pieces to them where LeBron James may entertain the notion of going there. But at the end of the day, like I said in all of my videos last year, I think LeBron James is going to stay with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and here is the reason why I feel like he's going to stay with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The reason why he's going to stay with the Cleveland Cavaliers, family loves it there. The opportunity to become an owner, and it's in the East. Okay, if he goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers, this is not the reason why. The reason why he'll go there is not because he feels like they can beat the Golden State Warriors next year. It's just the possibility of his future, the next stage of his life, which is becoming an owner. And I think LeBron James desperately wants to become that. He wants to become a figurehead in ownership. Nothing wrong with that. And I think that's the only reason why he'll choose Cleveland over anything else. Now, as it's about championships, he will go to the Boston Celtics. But for it to work, LeBron James may do a situation where he'll trade himself to the Boston Celtics, and in return, Cleveland gets something. That way, they get a parting gift. And Dan Gilbert, even if he goes to the Boston Celtics, win a couple of rings, retire, and he's still interested in becoming the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Dan Gilbert will probably co-sign to that. Okay, if they do a trade type deal. If he just simply goes to the Boston Celtics, then there's no shot of him becoming the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, but unless they outbid someone, because definitely Dan Gilbert is selling this team. Okay, but it is what it is. Those are the destinations. Guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. It's your boy. I'm Chris the Don One, and I am out of here. Deuces.